The most popular Christian music groups of all time will be in Kentucky later this month.
Petra rose to be one of the most popular Christian groups in the 1980s and 90s. They formed in the early 1970s, so they are celebrating their 50th anniversary, and they'll be in Louisville September 30th. WKYT's Phil Pendleton was able to talk to several of their long-standing members and has more on their legacy and their memories of playing in Kentucky.
Petra's John Schlitt and Bob Hartman have been together since the mid-1980s, forming a nucleus of a band that started in 1972.
The music that Bob wrote, I really believe is timeless.
Petra plays a hard rock blend of music that was born out of a mission of ministry.
And I think that common goal and that common purpose has joined us together in such a way that we feel that what we're doing makes a difference in people's lives.
They haven't recorded new music in almost 20 years, but have played off and on again since then. Last year, they played some 50th anniversary dates that expanded into this year.
With us, we're seeing people drive quite a distance sometimes to come and hear us.
Petra was a frequent performer at the Ichthus Festival here in Wilmore. In fact, both John Schlitt and Bob Hartman had a lot of memories of when they played at Ichthus. Many of those memories have a lot to do with the weather.
You mentioned Ichthus. To us, that was Mudfest. I know that's not a very positive thing, but...
And we played, and I think when we played, if I remember, it wasn't raining, but there was a lot of mud.
Petra played the Wilmore Festival at least 4 times through 3 different decades, along with the State Fair and at other churches and events. On Saturday, September 30th, their 50th anniversary show will be at a church in Louisville.
A lot of friends. That's how we see it. Anybody that's at our show is a friend who wants to bring back the memories that we were able to share with them and they shared with us.
And maybe that's what the allure is for people today. They remember those days and how they felt when they heard that music.
Somebody, somewhere. They say music can be very powerful, and they've seen its effect for 5 decades and hope to be performing for many more. Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
And again, Petra will be in concert this Saturday night, September 30th at St. Matthew Baptist Church there in Louisville. And you can find out more by going to petraunion.com. We'll have a link on WKYT and our news app and on WKYT.com.